For those of you who don't know me, I am Roberta, and I'm a member of the Colchester and District Jewish community. Every year, we hold a service of commemoration on Yom HaShoah, to which we invite a number of friends and leaders from the general community. There are two services of commemoration of the Holocaust. One is Holocaust Memorial Day, which is an international event remembering all those killed by the Nazis. Yom HaShoah commemorates those Jews murdered in the Holocaust. This year, our community has suffered two setbacks. First, our old friend Nick Feldman, who conducted all of our major services so brilliantly, has left us for Oxford. Our chair, Tanya McFerrin, asked Ruth Stone and me to conduct it. Second, and very obviously, it has not been possible to hold the service in our synagogue, which you see set up here for our communal Pesach Seder. Fortunately, we have been able to create this service to put online, so all of our members, friends, and invitees can watch it. We thank our husbands, Peter Stone and David Lyons, for making this possible. We begin with Ruth reading the afternoon service, Mincha. She will read the first half, after which I will talk about members of my family who survived the Holocaust. Ruth will then read the second half of Mincha. I will then talk about our Torah scroll, its origins, and our connection with the Czech towns of Písek and Strakonica, and will read names of a number of Jews from both towns who were murdered in the Holocaust. We normally ask our guests to light 6 candles, one for each of the 6 million. Without 6 candles, the best I can do is light 2 candles, one each, for 3 of the 6 million. This afternoon we'll conclude with a number of readings. And now Ruth will begin the first part of Mincha.
Welcome to this special Yom HaShoah service for 2020. We'll be following Mincha, the afternoon service, in a slightly shortened format, because we won't be doing the reader's repetition of the Amida, and you'll find it in the Sachs prayer book on page 171. Don't worry if you haven't got one, you can follow the video which will follow the text. I do hope you enjoy this, and we will start on 171 with Ashrei.
Ashrei. Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha, Ad Hallelu Sela. Ashrei Am Shekochalo, Ashrei Am She'Adonai Elohav, Tehillah LeDavid. Arom Mimcha Elohai HaMelech, Ve'avach Shemcha Le'olam Va'ed. Bechol yom avachecha, ve'halel Hashemcha le'olam va'ed. Gadol Adonai u'meholal me'od, ve'legdolato en cheker. Dolado yishabach ma'asecha, u'gevuratecha yagidu. Hada kavod hodecha, Divrei niflatecha sicha, vezot norotecha yomeru, ugedulatecha atzaprena. Zecher av tovcha yabiu, v'tzidkatecha yaranenu. Chanum v'rachum Adonai, erech apayim ugadol chesed. Tov Adonai lechol, v'rachamav al kol masav. Yoduch Adonai kol masecha, v'chasidecha yevachucha. Kavod malchutecha yomeru, ugevuratecha yedaberu. להודיע לבני האדם גבורותיו, וכבוד אדם מלכותו. מלכותך מלכות כל עמים, ממשלתך בכל דברו. צומח אדוני לכל הנובלים, וזוגיב לכל הכפופים. הנה כל עיניך יסברו, ואתה נותן להם את אוכלם בעתו. פותח את ידיך, ומשביע לכל חי רצון. צדיק אדוני בכל דרכיו, וחסד בכל מעשיו. קרוב אדוני לכל קרוב, לכל אשר יקראו באמת. רצון יראיו יעשה, ואת שבתם ישמע ויושיעם. שומע אדוני את כל אוהביו, ואת כל השעים ישמיד. תהילת אדוני ידבר פי, ויברך כל בשר שם קודשו לעולם ועד. ואנחנו נברך יה מעתה ועד עולם. הללויה.
חצי קדיש. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם עלמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדע ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמא, ואמרו אמן. עמידה. אדוני שפתי תפתח, ופי יגיד תהילתך. O Lord, open my lips so that my mouth may declare your praise.
We're now at Tachanun on 195, and I'm going to read in English. David said to Gad, I am in great distress. Let us fall into God's hand, for his mercy is great. But do not let me fall into the hand of man. Compassionate and gracious one, I have sinned before you. Lord, full of compassion, have compassion on me and accept my pleas. Lord, do not rebuke me in your anger or chastise me in your wrath. Be gracious to me, Lord, for I am weak. Heal me, Lord, for my bones are in agony. My soul is in anguish. And you, O Lord, how long? Turn, Lord, set my soul free. Save me for the sake of your love, for no one remembers you when he is dead. Who can praise you from the grave? I am weary with my sighing. Every night I drench my bed, I soak my couch with my tears. My eye grows dim from grief, worn out because of all my foes. Leave me, all you evildoers, for the Lord has heard the sound of my weeping. The Lord has heard my pleas. The Lord will accept my prayer. All my enemies will be shamed and utterly dismayed. They will turn back in sudden shame. Guardian of Israel, guard the remnant of Israel, and let not Israel perish, who declare, Listen, Israel, Shema Israel. Guardian of a unique nation, guard the remnant of a unique people, and let not that unique nation perish, who proclaim the unity of your name, saying, The Lord is our God, the Lord is one. Guardian of a holy nation, guard the remnant of that holy nation, and let not the holy nation perish, who 3 times repeat the threefold declaration of holiness to the Holy One. You who are conciliated by calls for compassion and placated by pleas, be conciliated and placated toward an afflicted generation, for there is no other help. Our Father, our King, be gracious to us and answer us, though we have no worthy deeds. Act with us in charity and loving kindness, and save us. We do not know what to do, but our eyes are turned to you. Remember, Lord, your compassion and loving kindness, for they are everlasting. May your loving kindness, Lord, be with us, for we have put our hope in you. Do not hold against us the sins of those who came before us. May your mercies meet us swiftly, for we have been brought very low. Be gracious to us, Lord, be gracious to us, for we are sated with contempt. In wrath, remember mercy. He knows our nature, he remembers that we are dust. Help us, God of our salvation, for the sake of the glory of your name. Save us, and grant atonement for our sins, for your name's sake. And now I'm going to hand you back to Roberta, who would like to tell you some of the history of her family.
At each Yom HaShoah service in the past, we have followed the custom of someone who remembered the Holocaust telling us about their experience. But as years go by, fewer Holocaust survivors remain, and we have to be a bit more creative if we want to know what the experience would have been like. I always wondered why my maternal grandmother was so disagreeable. She seemed so very bitter and dissatisfied with her lot. Then my mother explained. Nanny, as we called her, came from a small village in Lithuania. The family that were left there after my grandmother emigrated to Canada were very poor, and she regularly sent them money. But from the beginning of the war, she received no correspondence from them and stopped sending money. Mother said she cried herself to sleep every night. I don't recall her ever mentioning them. What follows is an explanation of her distress. One of my cousins, Steve Galerkin Warschild, was born in Vilnius in 1933. He lived through the Holocaust and now lives in Toronto. He has written an account of his life before, during, and after the Holocaust, and I'm going to relate some of his experiences. His book is called Walking, Running, Hiding. The title page says that its purpose is to leave a trace for future generations of those who came before them, of what happened in the Great Extermination of 1941 to 45, and a snapshot of life at that time, in lieu of the photographs that perished with the people in that conflagration. I had learned a few facts about the fate of his family from my mother and from another cousin from the same branch of the family, but Steve had lived it. Steve and I share great-grandparents, Zalman Hirsch Belovitsky and Rochelea, born Gurevich. Steve is the grandson of their daughter Michla. Michla married Beryl Goldberg. The Goldbergs, along with their 10 children, and my great-grandparents lived in a very small hamlet south of Vilnius. It is called Popashok in Yiddish, Papishkish in Lithuanian. My great-grandfather was a horse trader. My great-grandmother sold odds and ends to the farmers. Beryl, their son-in-law, ran the local inn. Their children were Pesach, who was the father of Anna, the other cousin I mentioned, and who survived the Holocaust. Esther, Steve's mother, who also survived the Holocaust, but sadly died in Montreal of dementia. And Yitzchak, who survived by going east into Russia. Then there were Tzalel, Chona, Shleima, Sholem, Perl, Fegi, and Zalman, all of whom were taken to what Steve describes as the wilderness of Truckeye, where they were all shot. Steve describes his life before the German invasion of Lithuania as a magical dream. He writes about seeing his first movie, Snow White, in Vilnius in 1938 when he was 5, about his first, maybe his last, treif hot dog, about eating potato latkes dipped in melted lard. Shocking. On learning of this, his other grandmother washed his mouth out with soap. Much later, after the Germans were defeated, there was a tinned ham, which he says was delicious. He writes about going with his parents to a wedding in Vilnius in 1940 when he was 7. He says, "On the evening of the wedding, my parents and I went in a droshka, a horse-drawn open sleigh, the driver up front in a long sheepskin coat and a tall fur hat. The 3 of us in the back, snug under a huge brown bear skin. The streets were snow-covered, the stars overhead very bright and twinkling in the cool, clear air. The sleigh's runners gliding easily over the packed snow, the chestnut horse at a fast trot, the sound of the hoofs muffling in the snow, the bells on the horse's collar jingling merrily with each step. Sitting in between my parents, I felt happy and secure and full of anticipation." The next June, the Germans had invaded, and as Steve puts it, the war had begun in earnest for the Jews of Vilnius. He was taken to stay with his grandparents in Popashok, a village about 20 kilometers from the city. I went there a few years ago. It consists of one road, a church, a Christian cemetery, and about 15 wooden houses on each side of the road. At the time Steve visited, there was an inn which was run by Beryl, and the Jewish children went to a cheder, not to the general school. Relations in general with non-Jews were good. The Jewish children played with the non-Jewish children, and the men would come to the inn and play cards with Steve's grandfather. His Aunt Fegi collected eggs from the chickens and taught Steve how to suck the contents from the shell. She also dug potatoes for dinner. He writes, "My aunt, who was short and stocky and went barefoot, took hold of the plant with both hands and pulled it out of the ground with some potatoes attached to the roots. She must have been very strong. Next, she dug the rest of the potatoes which grew out of the soil beneath the plant, and it was my job to pick up each one and put it into the burlap sack. I have an allotment, and every year I grow a few potatoes, and when I do this, I think of my mother's cousin Fegi. Fegi is also my mother's name in Yiddish. He describes how he saw his grandfather lay tefillin and his grandmother bake challah for Shabbat, how she made gefilte fish, and how his finger was caught by the vicious backward-facing teeth of the pike. He describes how his grandmother made cholent and gives us the recipe. He describes going fishing with his cousins, and how a cousin, a girl of about 9, gave him his first kiss. That was his last day in Papa-Shuk. The next day, he writes, it was back to the city in the war. I never saw my grandparents and Aunt Fegi again, nor the children I played with for a few memorable days. Before the summer was over, the war came to the tiny village in the form of a squad of the German Army's Einsatzgruppe, a gang of German, Ukrainian, and Lithuanian murderers whose job it was to find and kill Jews and communists. The 2 Jewish families were loaded into a truck and driven westward to the wilderness of Trakai, where they were shot and left there for the wild animals to feed on, their bones scattered in the forest. Steve, together with his mother, who was blonde and didn't look Jewish, and younger brother Emmanuel, Monik, and their father Ben Sion, managed to survive both in and out of the ghetto, partly through the kindness of Gentile friends and strangers, partly through his mother's cleverness, and partly through the decency of the young German soldier who was in charge of the labor camp in which they spent most of the war. The camp was called HKP and was situated in 2 large buildings which had been a home for poor Jews of Vilnius. It still stands. The soldier's name was Karl Plage, and he saved many male Jews by issuing them with official work permits on the false premise that their holders' skills were vital for the German war effort, and their wives and children by claiming they would work better if their families were alive. He was a decent and friendly man, tried to make life bearable for the people who helped him do his job, and would warn the camp when he knew the Gestapo was coming, Steve says. Steve's father, by occupation a bookkeeper, and had never held a saw, suddenly became a skilled carpenter. Esther sewed and repaired German uniforms. According to Wikipedia, although Plage could not stop the liquidation of existing prisoners in July 1944, he managed to warn them in advance, allowing about 250 to hide from the SS and survive until the Red Army liberated Vilnius. In 2002, Plage was declared one of the righteous among Gentiles. There was one event for which Plage could do nothing except warn the Jews. This was the Kinderaktie, the slaughter of all the children who could not hide. Why, he asks, did the Nazis come to kill the children? Because they were of no use to the German war effort. They had to be fed, but produced nothing. Steve and some friends had created a hiding place in the attic of their building, and Steve and his family and a few other people successfully hid in it. Of the many other children who were not saved was a boy with exceptional artistic talent. Steve remembers him with great clarity and sadness. In 1943, Steve's father died of typhoid. It seems he wasn't tough enough. When the German army deserted the ghetto and it was easy to leave, Steve and his mother and brother then went from village to village and back to Vilnius for the duration of the war. There were still German soldiers who would happily shoot them, and it had to be admitted, Lithuanians who had no scruples about killing a few Jews. But Esther and Steve and Monique survived the war. But by a terrible stroke of irony, 4 days after the war was officially ended, Monique was run over by a speeding truck. Esther never got over that. Shortly after that, Esther remarried, and Esther and Steve and Esther's second husband lived in Vilnius before emigrating to Israel in 1949. Conditions in Israel were not good. They weren't happy, so they emigrated to Canada to join their many relatives there. I don't have a picture of their house, but Steve did print a picture of his cottage in the country. Steve has a half-brother, Joel, who has 2 children. Steve has 2 children and 4 grandchildren. My other cousin, Anna, has 4 children and 8 grandchildren. It doesn't make up for the children and the grandchildren their aunts and uncles would have had, but it's something. I want to add a PS to my description of Steve's story. After I finished writing this, I discovered that his book had been republished under the title Traces of What Was, as part of the Azrieli series of Holocaust survivor memories. It's available in a Kindle edition, and I urge you to take a look at it. It's really exceptionally well written. Ruth will now continue with the second half of Mincha.
And we continue with Aleinu on page 199.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגור עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים, ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומשב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגפי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד.
Therefore we place our hope in you, Lord our God, that we may soon see the glory of your power, when you will remove abominations from the earth, and idols will be utterly destroyed, when the world will be perfected under the sovereignty of the Almighty, when all humanity will call on your name, and the earth's wicked will all turn to you. All the world's inhabitants will realize and know that to you every knee must bow and every tongue swear loyalty. Before you, Lord our God, they will kneel and bow down and give honor to your glorious name. They will all accept the yoke of your kingdom, and you will reign over them soon and forever. For the kingdom is yours, and to all eternity you will reign in glory, as it is written in your Torah, the Lord will reign forever and ever. And it is said, then the Lord shall be king over all the earth. On that day the Lord shall be one, and his name one.
כי המלכות שלך היא, ולעולמי תמלוך בכבוד, ככתוב בתורתך אדוני ימלוך, לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך, על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו echad.
And we end with Kaddish on page 201. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. Ba'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dichol beit Israel v'agala u'v'zman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehi shemei Rabbah mivarach le'alam almei almeya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnasei v'yithada v'yitalei v'yitalal shemei di kudsha b'richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata di amiran v'alma v'imru Amen. Yehi shlama Rabbah min shmaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Israel v'imru Amen. Osei shalom bimromav, hu ya'asei shalom aleinu ve'al kol Israel v'imru Amen.
And now back to Roberta with the story of our Czech scrolls.
Many of you will know that we are blessed to be in possession of a scroll from one of two towns in southern Bohemia, Písek and Strakonica. This scroll, one among many, was rescued after the war and brought to London where, after any necessary repairs were undertaken, were given on permanent loan to a number of synagogues throughout the world. Their history is told in this book. Because we are uncertain as to the origin of our scroll, we have decided to research and commemorate both towns. In order to make more real our connection with these towns, some years ago I started to find the names of all the Jewish residents and, where possible, their family connections and dates and places of birth and death. The Jews of both towns, with the exception of 2 survivors in Strakonica and none that I could find in Písek, all went to their deaths, mainly in Auschwitz. My husband and I, and later a number of members of our community, paid visits to each town and met a number of citizens. As part of a project called Neighbors Who Disappeared, the 3rd year of the Strakonica High School, under the direction of their teacher Pavel Sakirka, researched and wrote a book about the history of the Jews in Strakonica and their fates. Most of it is in Czech, but the efforts of the Colchester Jewish community do get one chapter in English. In addition to the book, these bright, energetic, enterprising young people and their teacher raised funds and commissioned a memorial to the lost Jews of Strakonica. A few of them came to Colchester and gave a presentation at the Holocaust Memorial Day service at the University Theatre. We were greatly impressed, and a small group of us traveled to Strakonica to attend the dedication of this memorial. Here is a picture of it. Each year, we remember specific Jews from both towns. This year, we commemorate from Písek, Mendel Blumstein, born Písek 1875, year and place of death unknown. Zina Poporova, maiden name Lederer, born Písek 1881, died Terezin 1942. Josef Shevach, born Písek 1900, date and place of death unknown. Itzko Weinstein, born Písek 1900, died Bialystok 1944. Ella Zingarova, born Vadnani 1894, died Vienna, date unknown. Hermine Kohn, born Písek 1882, died Terezin 1944. Anna Lamplova, maiden name Zuckerman, born Písek 1875, died Teplitsa, date unknown. Elaine Mandelova, maiden name Zuckerman, possible sister of Anna, born Písek 1877, died in Poland, date unknown. Mordechai Cyrulnik, born Písek 1880, died Brno Gora, Poland, 1942. Otilia Schwartz-Bartova, maiden name Kohn, born Písek 1891, died Vienna, 1943. Listings of the Jews from Strakonica are more detailed and more precise. They seem to me to show the efficiency and love of system that the Nazis espoused. Some places of birth and death are not known, although it's likely that they died in Auschwitz. As I read the names, you'll see watercolor illustrations from a book written in Czech called, in English, Strakonica Fellow Believers, from the life of the Jews in a small town, written as a memorial to the town he lived in by Robert Ehrman, who had escaped the Holocaust and settled in Canada. Tonight we commemorate Otto Anschalik, born Strakonica, 1892, died Auschwitz, 1942. Milena Demlova, born Strakonica, December 1932, died Auschwitz, 1944 or 45. Rudolf Demel, father of Milena, born 1889, transported to Terezin, 26th of November 1942, died Auschwitz, 1944. Markéta Demlova, born 12th of March 1903, transported to Terezin, 26th of November 1942, died Auschwitz, 1944 or 45. Bader Drucker, born 31st of May 1904, transported to Terezin, 24th of November 1942, place and date of death unknown. Ludwig Drucker, born 21st of January 1876, transported to Terezin, 26th of November 1942, date and place of death unknown. Richard Drucker, born 26th of September 1877, transported to Terezin, 26th of November 1942, place and date of death unknown. Helena Druckerova, born 28th of February 1881, transported to Terezin, 26th of November 1942, place and date of death unknown. Herta Druckerova, born the 29th of July 1911, transported to Terezin, 26th November 1942, place and date of death unknown. Maria Druckerova, born the 29th of July 1881, transported to Terezin, 26th of November 1942, place and date of death unknown. In the memory of the Jews of Pisek and Strakonica, and of my great-aunt Michla, born Belevitsky, and her husband Beryl Goldberg, and their children Salel, Chona, Shlema, Sholem, Perl, Fegi, Zalman, and in the memory of all the Jews and non-Jews murdered in the Holocaust, we will now say Kaddish. Please join us at home. Yiskadal v'yiskadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalmo divroch Yerusei, v'yalmich malchusei, v'chayei chon uv'yomei chon uv'chayei dekol Beis Yisrael, v'agalal uv'izman koriv v'imru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mavorach le'alom alma umay omaya. Yisborach v'yishtabach v'yispoar, v'yisraman v'yisnasei v'yishadar, v'yishalei v'yishalal, shemei dekudesho brichu, Le'elo min kol brichuso, v'shiroso, tushbichoso, v'nechamoso, damiran v'almo v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlomo rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru. Amen. Osei shalom b'imramov, hu yasei shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol b'nei Adam, v'imru. Amen. To end our service, I have found some readings which I believe are appropriate. True, we are often too weak. True, we are often too weak to stop injustices, but the least we can do is to protest about them. True, we are too poor to eliminate hunger, but in feeding one child, we protest against hunger. True, we are too timid and powerless to take on all the guards of all the political prisons in the world, but in offering our solidarity to one prisoner, we denounce all the tormentors. True, we are powerless against death, but as long as we keep one man, one woman, one child alive 1 hour longer in safety and dignity, we affirm man's right to live. Elie Wiesel. We talk about them because we are proud. We talk about them because we are proud. We talk about them because they deserve to be remembered. We talk about them because even though they are not physically with us, they are never far from our mind. We talk about them because they are part of us, a part that we could never ignore or disown. We talk about them because we love them still and always will. Nothing will ever change that. Lexia Brandt. The last two are by authors unknown. We believe in tomorrow. We believe in tomorrow. We believe that we have the power to make tomorrow different from today. We believe that poverty need not be permanent and that nations need not learn war anymore. We believe in people despite all we know about them. Finally, if we held a moment of silence for every victim of the Holocaust, we would be silent for 11.5 years. Thank you for being with us.